Hey everyone, I thought I would make a video today to show off my newest CZ. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know I'm a big fan of CZ and everything they do, so I thought what better way to celebrate that than is to get a carry gun from CZ. You know, I thought about carrying the P-07 for a long time, and I even thought about carrying the P-01 here on the right, but I actually settled on something different, and that's kind of what I'm going to show in this video. I will go ahead and show these are both clear. That's why I have them both locked back. Get this forward. So what we have here on the table, the CZ P-01, which I've already reviewed, and the CZ75D Compact. But what makes it special is the PCR, which stands for the Police Czech Republic. And how that differs from the standard CZ75 Compact is that it's a decocker, first and foremost. So the standard Compact is going to be a standard safety. So you'd carry it cocked and locked, versus this is actually a decocker. And that's denoted with the CZ75D. That D denotes a decocker. The other important piece to the PCR is that it utilizes an alloy frame. The standard CZ75 Compact has a steel frame like most full-size CZs. The PCR utilizes an alloy frame, and that's why it's very comparable to the gun on the right, which is a P-01, which also utilizes an alloy frame. These are very, very similar guns. And I've had this P-01 for a long time now, put a ton of rounds through it, and it's been my bedside gun for a long time as well. And I kind of wanted to trust my life to CZ, and I thought, what better way than the PCR? And so I kind of wanted to show some differences in these guns. There are some. A lot of people out there will think they're exactly the same gun. It's just that the PCR doesn't have a rail. For the most part, they're correct, but there are some differences that make it a little easier for carry, in my opinion. So let's look at the P-01 first. And I've covered it before, but let's look at just some of the basic features of it and see if I can get this to focus. So the P-01 has been around for a long time. It is a proven handgun. It was proven through a lot of military trials, and this one has had a number of rounds through it. I've owned it for a long time, put a number of rounds through it, and it's just been an excellent firearm. And what I like about it is the size. It just fits in the hand perfectly. It's basically the perfect size in my opinion. The ergonomics are excellent, like any CZ. The trigger pull is nice. I got it in half cock right now, but let me. So the trigger pull in double action, it's very smooth. Kind of get to a wall right here, then it breaks. And then your single action, you're going to have a little bit of take up, but it's a really light and crisp trigger. It's really nice. And it also has that decocker, which I really like. I'm not a huge fan of safeties on guns. I prefer a decocker, especially if I'm going to be fumbling with it in the middle of the night, or if I'm going to be carrying it, I prefer a decocker. It is 14 plus 1 rounds. And let me show you the magazines here. The magazines for both these are exactly the same. So this is the magazine that came with the P-01, and this is the magazines that came with the PCR. You will see that rubber bumper on the bottom of the P-01 magazine. I'm not sure if they do that anymore. I think that was an old thing they used to do. I'm pretty sure even the new P-01s come with just the standard magazines now. But other than that, they're exactly the same. They both hold 14 rounds. Not much to say, they're excellent quality magazines. Now, the differences, let's get into the PCR. So the most recognizable difference you can see, just starting, is the rear sight. So the P-01 has a very standard CZ rear sight. The PCR has a nicer rear sight in my opinion. So they kind of lowered the profile of it to make it where it won't snag for those who want to carry it, which is kind of what I was looking for. So it is a standard 3-dot sight, and it does have the CZ luminescence in the dots. So If you expose it to any kind of light and then at night bring it out, they're going to glow. That lasts for a few days at least, not a long time, and they're not true night sights, but they are nice. So, well, I like this a lot. I think it's really nice. The only thing I wish they would have done, I wish it extended all the way to the rear. Increase that sight capacity, or that sight radius a little bit, but it's a big improvement. It's a very big improvement over these, which I find would snag a little bit if you're trying to pull that from under clothing. So, big advantage, in my opinion, for the PCR. The other difference you're going to notice is the trigger. So on the standard P-01, you can see it's a standard smooth rounded trigger, very CZ-esque. On the PCR, it's got serrated. It's a serrated trigger. So I actually prefer a serrated trigger for carry. I want my trigger, or my trigger finger, to naturally rest on there and stop in place. I don't want it sliding on a trigger, and so it's nice to have that serrated trigger. Let me go ahead and show you the trigger pull for the PCR. It's not as broken in as the P-01, let me go ahead and say that right now, but it's pretty good out of the box. And what I've known about CZs since I've owned them is they only get better with age. So this is in half cock right now. In double action, you kind of get to that wall, then it breaks. Your single action, it's pretty good. It's still pretty heavy though. I want to say it's probably, the single action's got to be close to 6 pounds. So take up a little bit, then it breaks. So it's getting better. I've put close to 700 rounds to this already. I haven't owned it long, but I just plan to put a ton of rounds to it and make sure it's a good carry piece. And so far it's been outstanding. I've had no issues whatsoever. The other difference between the PCR and the P-01 is basically the slide catch, or the slide stop. So this is kind of angled here, and you can see how it's different. So this is actually a little slimmer profile than on the P-01, which I like. You know, if I'm carrying something, I don't want it to be protruding a lot, and it really doesn't. So you can see it doesn't protrude hardly at all on here. And the last big difference, as you can see on top of the slide, and that's right here on the PCR. And that is a loaded chamber indicator. So when you have a round in the chamber, this will pop up. And so you'll know, without ever even having to look, to be honest, if you just feel here, you can tell you have a round in the chamber, which is really nice. You know, if you're carrying something, you don't have to press check it. You can just look down and see, hey, I've got a round in the chamber. Or you can just feel and say, hey, I've got a round in the chamber, maybe if it's dark or something like that. So really nice. Something that doesn't come stock are these grips. These are the CZ Custom Shop aluminum grips. I wanted to buy them and try them out. I'm actually a huge fan of these rubber grips that come on the P-01, and the PCR came with them as well. But you can see the rubber grips add a little bit to the width. So I went with the aluminum grips from CZ Custom, just so I could decrease that width a little bit, make it easier to carry. Overall, I've been impressed with them. There's not much else I can say about them. They're very tactile, they're very grippy, and they're very thin. And that's what I wanted. And, you know, I feel really this is, in my opinion, the ultimate carry gun. It's 23 ounces. I have 15 rounds with it fully loaded. It's perfect size in the hand. It conceals well. You know, you've got features like the loaded chamber indicator. You have these snagless sights. You have a decocker. You know, I can't ask for anything better. And so, you know, if I was going to choose a gun to carry, this is the gun I have chosen. And it just matches up so well with the rest of the CZ line, but specifically the P-01. They are really like brothers as far as features go, but they do have a couple differences, and that's kind of what I wanted to show in this video. Just those differences. As far as I can tell, that's the only differences that exist between these models, other than the rail, of course, but that's a pretty big obvious difference. And, you know, if I was going to carry a gun, I really didn't want a rail. I have no need for a tack light, or I have no need for a laser on a carry gun. So the PCR was my easy choice for me. And so, you know, I'll continue to shoot it. I'll continue to make sure it's a reliable gun. I have no expectation that it won't be if it's like any other CZ I own. So hopefully this video helps out folks who are looking into CZs, and specifically the PCR or the P-01, and helps them make a good decision. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them. And as always, thanks for watching, guys.